What do gym boot camps, reality shows, and challenge launches all have in common? High energy, wild transformations, and just enough pressure to keep things exciting. If you're looking for a way to turn cold leads into raving buyers fast without relying on 37 different nurture emails and a prayer, today's episode just might be for you. We're diving into the challenge launch style, what it is, who it's for, and how to know if you're ready to lead that hype train. Spoiler, if your offer creates a real transformation and you thrive on live interaction, this just might be your best launch yet. Let's break it down.
Being an online business owner is full of ups and downs. Some days you can't imagine going back to your 9-to-5, and other days you want to burn your whole business to the ground. We get it.
Welcome to Chaos to Conversions, a podcast of practical, no BS strategies to grow your online business. Each week, we're chatting about launching, copywriting, mindset, and more, so you can make sense of the chaos and do more of what works.
Join the conversation and let's grow together.
Hi, and welcome back to the Launch Your Way series, lovingly known as the Hot Girl Summer of Launching. So we have been breaking down different launch styles. You can head on back and take a look at a couple of other episodes. For example, in episode 63, we talk about how any launch strategy can work, and today we're talking about a challenge launch. And then in some upcoming episodes, we are going to talk about the other different kind of more common styles of launching, like webinar, paid versus free experiences. But today is all about the challenge launch. So a challenge launch is a high energy, high impact strategy that can build engagement, nurturing trust, and converting colder leads into buyers in just a few days. So this can be really good for anybody, honestly. And that is, I guess, the most important takeaway of this series, that you can launch in a way that feels good for you. I'm going to lay out some pros and cons of each different type of launch and kind of hopefully help steer you in a direction that makes you feel really confident. So let's go ahead and get started. We are going to be talking about challenge launching today. So first off, let's get into what exactly is a challenge launch. So this is a launch style that is a live launch. It has a specific cart open and cart close date, or a time where you're doing this launch event. If you have something like an ever-enrolling membership, for example, you might not be officially closing your cart, but you should be having some sort of sales special during this time, whether that's like extra bonuses, an incentive, a discount of some sorts, which I wouldn't necessarily recommend, but there should be something that you were doing to incentivize people to join at this particular time if you have something that is ever enrolling. So a challenge launch has a ton of moving parts. It is the most complicated launch strategy. We'll talk about more on that in a second. But at the very least, for a challenge style launch, you are going to need some sort of freebie or training that is designed around a clear and desirable outcome for your audience. This, like I mentioned in the intro, is very important because it is ideal for taking people from colder leads to warm, hopefully buyers, in just a few days. So it is a great way for people to quickly warm up a new audience. And that is one of the benefits of launching, right? In general, that you're growing your visibility and you're growing your audience. If you can forget about conversions and sales and money for a second, doing a live launch is a great way to build your visibility, your authority, and really get new people into your world. Even if they don't buy right away during the first, couple weeks that they've entered your ecosystem, if they join through a launch, that doesn't mean that they, won't buy sometime later. Challenge launches are also really great if your content and your course or membership is geared towards doing something specific, like a specific creation that you're actually making, whether it's digital or physical, a skill, a habit. A clear transformation needs to be able to be provided within this challenge launch. So you need the training to be really focused with an outcome. I also often recommend a pop-up community. A lot of people use Facebook. That doesn't mean you have to use Facebook, but a pop-up community of sorts can also be really great for building engagement, accountability, which will in turn increase your conversions later on. You're also going to need some emails for a challenge style launch. So you might have people come in and register. So you'll of course need a landing page as well. So they'll come in, they'll register for your free challenge, and they'll need a confirmation email right away. You'll also need some reminder emails, some show up emails, some confirmation emails, whatever you want to call them. The purpose of these emails is to remind people that the challenge is kicking off in just a few days. And then eventually you'll also want to remind them, if you're doing like a 3, 4, or 5-day challenge, you'll also want to remind them each day of when the challenge is, the fact that it's going live, what are they going to learn on that specific day. So you will have kind of a decent amount of work up front in order to prepare the copy between like the registration page and between the show up and reminder emails. The rest of the pre-launch isn't really any different than any other style of launching that you might do, whether that's a webinar or a paid workshop or even an email-only launch. You are still going to want to at least 3, ideally 3 or more weeks before you open up the registration for your challenge. You want to make sure that you are preparing your audience by encouraging engagement on social media if you use social media, by sending emails that really start to shift their perspectives, break down their misconceptions, and encourage capability in them so that when you open the doors to your challenge, they're excited to sign up and learn with you. We want people, by the time they are getting to your challenge, if they're not brand new to your email list or to your world, we want them at least 50% of the way to wanting to be buying from you and purchasing from you, enrolling in your course or your membership. And some of that can be accomplished through your pre-launch content. You don't need to put all of your metaphorical launch eggs in one basket and really brace and hope that the conversion event is what is going to make or break your launch. Your pre-launch content should get them super excited and ready to attend the conversion event, including your emails, your reminder emails, your show up emails, before you're even live during those challenges. So what might a challenge week breakdown, if you're launching in this style, actually look like? Generally speaking, most challenges are anywhere from 3 to 5 days. I personally find that 5-day challenges can get a little bit long. I would be more on the side of a 3, maybe a 4-day challenge, just because some trends that I feel like I've seen with my clients in the past couple of years, people's attention spans are like shorter. If you're not having like super concise, deliverable, transformative results with your challenge, people will lose interest. And I mean, it is natural for them to drop off anyway, like during the course of the challenge. Like that's not uncommon. So don't beat yourself up about that. But it's way easier to keep people more engaged for 3 days instead of more like 5 days. So you can do this one of 2 ways. I love to recommend to do it live if you are up for it and available for it, and delivering the content live each day that your challenge is available. Now, these are going to be short videos or short lives with actionable steps that they can do either as they're watching the training or when the training is over that day. And the type of stuff that you should be covering, and I'm going to do this at like a very high level, right? Because everybody's niche and business is different. But in the first day or 2, you definitely want to make sure that you are including, yes, a lot of value, but also explaining to them why whatever problem they're having, why they're having it, and then begin to shift into like what they can do about it with some steps to take. Now, sometimes I think people go too overboard on the steps that they can take, and they end up accidentally giving away their entire offer within a free challenge. That is very easy to do in this type of in this type of launch, because of course you want them to be able to actually do something and walk away with something when they're done. But instead of actually like giving them the how-to part of whatever it is that you're teaching them, consider also including things like maybe reflection questions on the problem that they're having. Maybe they can brainstorm some steps on their own to get them towards whatever transformation they are hoping for. The other thing that I would note is I also don't really think you need to wait until the third or the final day, third, fourth, fifth, the final day to completely transition to your paid offer. I think that in especially the end of 2024 and into 2025, we are definitely in people have called it a trust recession, a trust desert. Anyway, like it's really, people are becoming more skeptical where they're spending their money. The online creator space has become super saturated. So I think that there is something to also be said about mentioning your offer, not only before the challenge even starts. Like there is nothing wrong with letting people know upfront that you are going to be talking about an additional paid way that they can work with you during this challenge, but that you still hope that they'll come and they'll get a lot out of it, regardless of whether they decide to work with you or not. That being said, there's no reason you can't discuss or low-key pitch your paid offer every single day in a sort of leading up capacity, whereas the last day of your challenge, yes, you'll be giving a much more thorough pitch and going through the features of your offer, the support they can expect from you, things like that. So during the challenge week, you are delivering these 3 to 5 short trainings. We're talking like around 15 minutes. So think anywhere, honestly, between like 8 minutes and 20 minutes is probably reasonable, but shoot for 15 minutes. And we're also hopefully engaging people in the community. We're asking them to check in with their action steps. You can do things like post daily or have prizes for participation to get people really engaged. This is one of the reasons, though, why that like a challenge launch can become kind of a higher lift, a bigger lift. And then after your challenge videos, your challenge lives are over, you are going to leave the cart open for an additional arguably 7 to 10 days. It depends on the length of your challenge. And you do want to make sure that you are announcing it to your entire list when you are opening your cart, not just the people who were registered for the challenge. However, those people who registered for the challenge, they're definitely going to get some extra emails encouraging them to catch up on the challenge videos. I would always recommend, no matter what launch strategy you have, offering a replay that expires when the cart closes to give them a bit of a sense of urgency to make sure that they can watch it and catch up on their own time. Okay, so let's talk a little bit more about that's what a challenge launch could look like. Let's look a little bit more at some of the pros and the cons of running a challenge style launch. See if it fits your launch style, what you're thinking about, and then also I do have a case study for you. All right, so some positives about a challenge style launch is you can definitely attract new leads, nurture them, and convert them fairly quickly because you're building this trust and engagement through this real-time interaction as you're hopefully helping them to achieve the transformation that you promised with your challenge event. So it is a great way to create community and warm up your audience fast. This can be good for a higher ticket offer. It can also still be good for a medium or lower ticket offer. The only thing that I would, kind of note about this is it does require a lot of content, especially if you are including something like a pop-up Facebook group, because you're going to have to prepare things like the posts, not to mention all of the show up emails, the group engagement. So it is long, and it's the longest type of launch style. And it's definitely like the most complex. You can't just say, I mean, I guess you could, but if you have a small team or not a very large team, it would be very difficult for you to say like, oh, I'm going to do a challenge launch next month if you've never done it before and be totally ready. The other thing that I would consider to think about when you are considering if you want to do a challenge launch style is this your only major launch of the year? If you are trying to do challenge launches like 4 times a year, quarterly, for example, you might be burning out your audience because it's so many invitations and then follow up, and then you're also talking about the challenge while you're implementing it. Challenge style launches generally seem to work a little bit better for like the big launches of the year. If you only launch whatever this offer is once or twice, that is a sign that maybe a challenge offer or challenge style launch would be good for you. The other thing to think about is making sure that like your offer actually fits this style. So you really are going to need an offer that is moving the final transformation of your audience towards a new habit, an actual skill that they're learning. And then you can give them this small win before they invest in your larger program through this challenge style launch. If your offer is super low ticket, like I mentioned earlier, challenge style launches just might not be the best, because when you look at the ROI of your own time and actually like creating this much content, this much like hype and all of this that goes into a challenge launch, it can get really exhausting if you were selling something like a $27 or a $97 product. It's a lot of work. So think about like your own personal ROI when considering a challenge launch. So I have a couple of different case studies for you to think about. One was a big old fail, so I will just put that out there. This is someone that I've worked with for now about 4 years, and we tried a challenge style launch with her in October. Now, previously, she had been doing webinar style launches in July, and her audience is teachers. So she is going more like business to customer, and she's selling to other teachers. So we thought that, sure, a webinar in October might not be the best because teachers might not have time to like attend, or they might not want to attend a live webinar at like 8:00 at night, for example, when they were, done with school. So we said, hey, why not? And this was a couple years ago. This was probably back in, I don't know, 2022 or 2023. It was a while ago, but we decided to try it. We learned a lot from it. So we did a 4-day challenge, I think, and we ran it in October, like I mentioned, so the teachers could like watch it on their own time or listen to it on the way to work. They didn't need to block off a whole hour. They could do it in 15-minute chunks. And the logic behind this, because her offer has a lot to do with classroom setup, but we did have a logical, I think, reason for doing this. We were thinking people might realize after they got like a month or so into the year, they needed actually more help with their classroom setup or revising it. Either way, full transparency, this ended up being like a huge flop. We think that teachers were probably too burnt out, too busy already in October. They didn't feel like they could actually go back and rework their classroom. We also probably didn't do like enough pre-launch things, but that is just, so those are some of the reasons I think that it went wrong. We did make some sales, but I mean, she usually was having 5-figure launches in the summer, and I don't even know if we hit 4 figures in October. So it was not good. We never did it again. But that's just something to think about, like consider your actual audience when and what they're doing and how they're feeling when you are choosing a launch strategy. Another case study that went a bit better is working with a doctor who had a pretty cold audience, honestly, before we launched. And we tried to warm them up. maybe we didn't give it quite enough time. She didn't do anything like ad spend or bringing in new emails to her list. We mainly just focused on launching to this somewhat cold list that we did warm up a little bit ahead of time. That being said, though, she has a fairly small email list. It's not really small. I guess it depends on who you ask. It's around 4,000 people. And we did have over 200 people from her email list sign up, and those people were very engaged. We did ultimately have about an 8% conversion. She did not a live challenge launch. It would honestly be something that I would more so call a video series where the videos were like pre-recorded, but she did have very clear action steps and homework that they could complete and also submit to her. So when it was all said and done, an 8% conversion, which was about 20 purchasers, was it was her best launch so far. And we think that it worked pretty well because she was really engaged with the people who were participating. We didn't include any extras like any community just because it was so much content to create the first time around. But we are optimistic that if we make a bigger deal out of it, warm up her email list a little bit better, and maybe have more of a community feel, maybe a pop-up, an additional pop-up Q&A, for example, we can increase the results with her challenge launch. So that can work. Challenge style launching can work for multiple different niches, but some things to just as a reminder as we wrap up, keep in mind is that challenge launches are and can be a powerful style, but they are a lot of work and can be pretty time intensive. So make sure you're asking yourself, if you were thinking of choosing a challenge style launch for your next launch, do you have the time and energy to run this? Will your audience in general benefit from a step-by-step challenge? Like, does your offer align to give them a quick win because your bigger offer is giving them a larger transformation? And do you have the time to plan and make sure that you can get a lot of the content done ahead of time so you are not burning yourself out trying to implement this challenge style launch? Are you thinking about relaunching a course, membership, or a group program? I invite you to check out the Launch Reno. The waitlist is open right now. In the Launch Reno, it is a group program where we take a look at your data, refine your messaging, realign your launch strategy, and then finally relaunch your offer together. The link is in the show notes.
Thanks so much for stopping by to hang out with me today. If you want to learn more about how we can work together on a launch strategy or grab a freebie or one of the resources I mentioned, head over to duxburydigital.co/resources. I'll be back here next Tuesday for more practical strategies to take your business from chaos to conversions.